So first things first, there's a little hole right about there. You need to remove this cap with a flathead. So after you remove that cap, you will see that long piece of metal has a little hinge up top that comes right out here. So what you want to do is put your flathead in here, and you got to find that little metal hinge and push in. And once you push that metal hinge, what happens is one side's going to release. I already done it. It took me a little while because it was my first time doing it. But this little hinge right here, that little hinge, you got to push that in with a flathead. And what that does, see if you could see it move, that releases this. It releases that and it'll pop off. And they're on both sides of the steering wheel. So once you get one side, it's going to pop out like this. And then you got to get the other side. It'll completely come out. So same thing on this side. Find the little hole, move your steering wheel around, and then you got to find that little piece of metal and push in with a flathead screwdriver. And after you do that, which is going to be really tedious, you're going to have your steering wheel popped out just like this. Let's pop these little black heads off with a flathead. So we're going to try to make it work. And that should be good. So these should pop right off. Alright. You just want to start removing these cables. Finesse those out of there. Alright guys, so then you want to get some needle nose pliers. And this should just come right off. Just like that. And then you have your airbag. And again, you took off the airbag harnesses, which there's 2 of them. And then you took off the ground. And that's what it looks like from the back. Take off. You're going to take your 19mm, stick it on a big side. Stick it on a big wrench just like this. You want your buddy to hold it tight. And just, yeah. And you get that out of there. Okay, guys, so you get this loose enough. Just want to take it completely off. Put it somewhere safe. And then, should be just like that. We do have to unclip a couple more things. On the left side of the steering wheel, there's going to be that harness. You got to get this harness out of there. And then also, you got to pull these, you got to pull the airbag harness out of here. There's 2 more harnesses. One's going to be in the bottom left, and then one's going to be on the right. So you just want to get those loose, and then pull those off. This one you are going to have to unscrew, and then this should be sitting free. That should drop the harness out of there, so we can easily access it and unclip it. If you unclip this last harness right here, you should be able to just pull your steering wheel completely out. So after you remove the steering wheel, you're going to want to turn it around, and then this cap right here in the back just snaps off. Use a little bit of power on it, and that cap should directly come off. And then you want to grab a screwdriver and remove those 2 screws right there. And then we'll work all the way up here. There's going to be those screws, and there's going to be 2 more screws on this side. And then there's going to be 2 screws down there. The old screw to this bracket right here that mounts up here, just so I know which screw goes where. Alright, now we have unscrewed these 2 screws, and now you just want to unclip that, and this comes right off. Now we're going to work our way to the bottom where the side piece is, or the bottom trim piece, I should say. We're going to unscrew these 2 and then continue going from there up. Alright guys, so after removing those two pieces, this bottom trim is going to come right out. You can put these screws right back in here. And so these screws are going to be used later, so make sure you save these two screws. So this is going to be taped down here. All you want to do is just untape that side right there, and then come back over here. Just untape this off right here. There you go. And now you have your back piece. And you can put this on your other steering wheel. And what I just removed right here is only if you do have a heated steering wheel on your Q50. Just so you guys are aware. So not everybody is going to have this problem. After you remove the glue from your back, you're going to want to move up here. This is what I'm doing. You don't have to do this in order, but you're going to need a slim Phillips head. A thick one will not fit in there. I'm going to start working on these to remove the buttons. And after you loosen those up, the harness and the buttons will come completely off. Just like that. So you have this harness attached to the other side of the buttons, just like this. Alright guys, so now that we got those off, I just like to put my screws back in just so I know later on where they go. Now we're going to work on the other side here. So same thing, just unscrew these screws right here. So after you do that, the other side will pop off. And now you'll have the whole harness with the buttons attached. Before you install the steering wheel, mine has a little bit of surface rust, so I just want to go ahead and clean it up real quick. So I'm going to let this WD-40 sit here for a couple minutes and then clean it up, and then we'll get back. I used some WD-40 on it to get most of the rust out, and then I sanded it down just a little bit, just enough to get that rust out of there. And we'll be ready to install it now. Alright guys, so then you want to grab your bottom trim over here. And you want to go ahead and place it right where the screw holes are. And then you're going to want to bring those old screws that you had and put them in place. Alright, so now you get your bottom trim on, and that's what that looks like. Now, what you want to do is put these buttons back into place. So you just have to fit them in there, just like that. Then spin it around, and back in the same screw holes. You want to push from the back where the buttons are so you can get it nice and tight.
Nope.
You don't have to tighten these too much. Just enough where you feel the resistance. We're just going to do the same thing on the other side. Get your screws. And put this into place. So earlier on this video, on the back of the cap of the steering wheel, we took off two screws that I'm going to show you right here. It's the little harness, the little piece of plastic. My phone died and I forgot to re-record it of me putting the screws back in, so make sure you do that before you put the cap back on. You're going to put your rear cover back on. You just want to put a little bit of pressure back here. Should sit pretty tight. There we go. Just like that. Alright guys, so after you put the back cover on, start working on mounting this female back on here. I'm going to put this screw back in here that holds that female harness. Just want to make sure you align it right there. So there's that female back on there. Give it a good squeeze. Alrighty. Okay, so now you just want to feed your wires. Feed every wire through here. Feed these two from the middle. And feed this one on the right of the steering wheel. And then you can pull them out from here. Just like that. Alright, and right here, you're gonna have that white piece of plastic right there. And that's you're gonna need to line that up with your steering wheel. Right up top here. So you line that up. Alright, then after you get it nice and tight in there, you're going to want to make sure you have room for this to clear. And then you're going to want to make sure, it's very important, that these two lines right here are straight and aligned with each other. So now you're ready to put your bolt back in. Alright guys, so now I got my bolt back in there. And hand tighten it a little bit. Alright guys, so you're supposed to tighten this anywhere from 23 to 25, but I don't have a torque wrench, so I'm just going to do it by hand. When it's tight enough, or when I feel it's tight enough, I will stop. If you do have a friend, I recommend you have them hold the steering wheel straight for you while you tighten it. Alright guys, so after you tighten that in there, you can start clipping everything back in. This line is going to go back into here. Just like that. Clip that back in there. Alright guys, so after you get that harness in, this one on the right will stay empty, and this gray one goes right in here. It's connected to the wire, to the ground, I mean. And this one's gonna stay empty because that was your heated steering wheel if you did have one. If you didn't have one, don't worry about it. After that's done, you can tuck everything in there, and then these will go to the airbag. All right now guys, so now you're gonna want to run the orange wire first through this little piece of plastic that holds it down. You're gonna want to run that first. And then you're going to want to run the yellow one right behind it. So you want to put your ground wire in there. Just like that. After you get your ground wire right in there, make sure it's nice and tight. It's pretty tight. And then you're going to want to get the airbag clips right in there. Make sure you tighten the black part. Just like that. And now you are ready. Put your airbag back on. But before we do that, I'm going to make sure that everything's working properly. So I'm going to plug the battery back in. And then I'll make sure my horn's working and all my buttons over here are working. And then we'll be right back. Alright guys, so the battery is plugged in to do our test. Alright. So those buttons are working. Everything's working fine so far.
Every time I go back to the ward, act like they won't start it, we leave them up.
Alright guys, so after you got every wire in place, you want to make sure that that hole and that clip is aligned. You want to give a good push. Alright guys, so after you push this thing in, it should be all good here and honk. But after you put everything in, you're all set.